Hello, board game bros. It's SilentSigns from I Dream of Indie, and today we are taking a look at The Game of Life 2. That's right, the game that you played after you got bored of Monopoly as a child is finally getting a sequel. So if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering how exactly you make a sequel to a classic board game, especially one that's as well known as The Game of Life, and the answer to that is you update it to modern times. In The Game of Life 2, you can customize your character, their vehicle, your icon. You can even choose from a bunch of different fun boards, and if you purchase the season pass, there are even more boards to be unlocked. Gone are the tried and true career choices of the past. Now you can become a video blogger, a game designer, or even a dog groomer. The Game of Life 2 also has a lot more second chances. So for example, if you opt to skip college on your first spin, that's okay. You will have the opportunity to pursue higher education once again later on down the road. This time around, having the most money doesn't necessarily guarantee you a win in the Game of Life. You can also score points by having the most happiness and knowledge. You can now also marry whoever you would like, and you have the option, if you so choose, to adopt pets instead of have children, and that has to be my favorite update. The Game of Life 2 can be played single player, but you can also play it either online or local multiplayer. Do note that when it comes to the local multiplayer, you are only able to use one controller, so you will have to play it as a pass the controller type scenario. However, I did test out the online multiplayer, and in good news, there were folks to play with. I had no problem finding a match. I got right in. Nobody quit the game. It was great. Perhaps part of the reason for this is that it is cross-platform multiplayer, so you can play with someone playing on their phone while you're on your Switch, or even with someone on their PC. Did you lose at life this time? It's okay, all is not lost, because there are collectibles that you can gather along the way, which will help unlock new customizations for your characters and vehicles. As far as actual gameplay goes, you are essentially doing the same thing you would do in any iteration of Game of Life. You spin the wheel, you get a number, you move that number of spaces, and sometimes you end up on an action space and you get to make a choice. These choices usually involve picking a career path, or whether or not to go on a vacation, or do a bowling battle, and these little battle mini games like laser tag or bowling are usually just done by a spin of the wheel with every player involved. Unlike my real life, you do eventually get to retire in the Game of Life 2, at which point you can choose between spinning for additional wealth or spinning for additional happiness and knowledge. The presentation of the Game of Life 2 is surprisingly amusing. I thought it looked like one of the newer iterations of a Monopoly game, and even a little bit like a Mario Party game. The board themes were kind of fun. I particularly liked the spooky theme one. I did also appreciate the additional customization that made it feel a little bit more personal than your average Game of Life. The layouts of the boards were easy enough to understand, and just jumping right into my first game online, I didn't have any problem picking up and figuring out how to play, even with a limited memory of how to play the actual Game of Life. I was also impressed to see that the music changes with each of the themed game boards, so you're not stuck listening to the same song every time, as long as you switch up your board once in a while. The basic theme music is catchy enough. It's nothing that I'm going to put on and listen to outside of the context of the Game of Life 2, but it's not unpleasant. Overall, I think the presentation for the Game of Life 2 gave me everything I would be looking for a board game gone video game, especially one that's been brought into the modern times. I do think there's some fun to be had with the Game of Life 2, playing online with some friends, playing locally with your family, passing around the controller. However, and I don't like to talk about price too much in these reviews, but I do feel like I have to address it here. This is a little bit expensive, especially when you consider the fact that you need to purchase an additional season pass in order to unlock the rest of the boards. I could almost justify it more if this came with the option to play a classic Game of Life as well, but it does not, at least not that I could find. There is a classic themed board, but it doesn't have the classic Game of Life rules, so unless there's something in the options I was missing, or perhaps in that season pass I was addressing earlier, maybe. But to me, it looked like the options in general were fairly limited. You could change the music and sound effect volume levels, and you could adjust the language, and that was about it. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't have any fun with the Game of Life 2, because I did. I actually enjoyed my playthrough. I enjoyed the fact that you can unlock different customizations. I liked the board game themes. I just think it's a little bit too expensive for what it is. But I guess that's really life in a nutshell, isn't it? So I can't complain too much. Before I go, I just wanted to take a moment to thank our indie warriors, Mitchell Hall, Cavalo, Bunny, Bill Tikaz, Christian Cruz, Strick9, Rosie Syntax, Chris Jackson, Nathan Moore, Peach, Adriana Amato, CJR, Jesse, Falco Lombardi, Wesley William Semple, C Coil, and Skeptism. Thank you all so much for your support, and thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss any reviews or previews, and check out the description box for links to our Discord if you'd like to chat, our merchandise, our memberships, and tons of other ways to support the channel. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.